Welcome to Introduction to Biblical Hebrew Lesson 5. This corresponds to Kittel and Hoffer's Lesson 5 in the textbook. This lesson has a lot going on in it, so buckle in and let's get started. So let's start with the theme sentence for this lesson. Here you see it. As always, the first question we want to answer is, how would you pronounce this sentence in Hebrew? So we start with Devar Adonai Asher Haya El Hoshea. Devar Adonai Asher Haya El Hoshea. Okay. Now, we can begin with this phrase at the beginning of the sentence, Devar Adonai. First question is, what does Adonai mean? As we know from previous lessons, Adonai simply is the proper name, the Lord. The second word, Devar, is recognizable as our vocabulary word, Davar. We'll talk later in the lesson about why the vowels have changed. So what does Davar mean? Word. Well, why is there a dagesh in the initial dalet? Of course, dalet is a begag fat letter. This is at the beginning of the word, so this is simply dagesh leni. It has no grammatical significance.
Now, these two words, you see they're two nouns next to each other, here connected by a makef. These two words are related in a way that we haven't seen before. This is called a construct chain. Previously, we've seen two nouns next to each other being connected by a to be verb. So, Ani Adonai, I am the Lord. Here we have two nouns next to each other, related in a different way. In this case, the construct chain. So construct chains occur when two nouns are juxtaposed to one another. Most often, the construct chain indicates a genitive relationship. So we would translate into English with the word of. So davar, word, and Adonai, the Lord, come together into a construct chain. And an important element here is that the first word undergoes a vowel change. So davar becomes dvar. Here you see the shva under the first under the dalet and the pasach under the vet. Sometimes, as in our case, but not always, words in a construct chain are joined by makef. This is not consistent enough that you should rely on it as a marker. And frequently, construct chains will occur with no makef. So this one is particularly well marked, but you wouldn't want to rely on that indicator. So the resulting construct, in its genitive sense, so possessive, so we have devar, a word, and Adonai, the Lord. And so the relationship of these becomes, in English, we'll modify this in just a second, but a word of the Lord. So the first word being possessed by the second word. Now, if the second word is definite, that is, if it has a definite article, if it's a proper name, then the first word will also be definite. So a construct chain is either all definite or all indefinite. So here, a word of the Lord is really the word of the Lord. Now, in the construct chain, the first word, davar, in this case, is called the construct, and the second word, or the final word, in this case it's the second word because we have a two-word construct chain, is called the absolute. So the construct, davar, the absolute, Adonai. So our rule is this: if the absolute is definite, the entire chain is definite. The absolute can be definite in a couple of different ways. The simplest is that it has a definite article, so the house. Second is that it's a proper noun, a name or a place. Or third, that it has a possessive pronoun. So my house is definite because we know which house we're talking about, not just any old house, but my house. So if the absolute is definite in one of these ways, then the construct will also be definite. So in this case, Adonai, the Lord, is a proper noun, therefore it is definite, and therefore we translate the word of the Lord. Alright, so Devar Adonai Asher Haya El Hoshea, the word of the Lord. Now we need to translate our second phrase, Asher Haya. These are both vocabulary words. The first one is Asher is the relative pronoun, which we can translate as which or who or whom. The second is a verb. Notice the characteristic markers here. You have a comments under the first root radical. You have a lack. You have no doubling of the middle root letter. These both suggest to us that our root is haya and that our stem is cow. We have no prefix, and so we know this is an affix form. Third masculine singular. No special features. So if we were to translate haya, it would be it was or it happened. So to translate our whole phrase, Asher haya means which was or which happened, or something like that. Alright, so Devar Adonai Asher haya, the word of the Lord which was. And this leaves us with the final phrase, El Hoshea. El is quite familiar to us by now, preposition meaning to or toward. And then Hoshea, simply the proper name of the prophet, Hosea. So now we're in a position to translate our entire phrase. Devar Adonai Asher Haya El Hoshea. This means, literally, the word of the Lord which was to Hosea, or which happened to Hosea. In English, we would tend to say, the word of the Lord which came to Hosea, or something like that. Okay, we saw a phenomenon in this sentence which we need to spend some time discussing. I've told you up until now that sometimes vowels change in words, and you don't need to worry about why or how they change. Well, those days are over, and now it's time to worry about them. So let's talk a little bit about vowel reduction. In the previous example, you saw the vowel reduction of the word davar as you know it from your vocabulary, with commas under the first letter and commas under the second letter. You saw it become devar when placed in construct with Adonai. So the comments in the first root letter became vocal shva. The comments under the second root letter became patach. So you see a shortening of the vowels. Now vowel reduction has to do with the position of the vowel in relation to the accent of the word. So when it is simply by itself, davar, the accent is on the second syllable there, var, and so so the vowels, we have to have a long comments under the dalet in order to hold open that unaccented syllable, and then the accented syllable can have the long closed syllable. Now vowel reduction, the easiest case to talk about vowel reduction is the construct form, which is what we have here with Devar Adonai. In a construct chain, what happens is the accent shifts entirely to the absolute. So the word that is in construct loses its accent altogether, and the absolute is accented. So that means all of the vowels in the construct, that is in the first word, try to reduce as far as they can reduce. So, Devar Adonai, here you see in the first syllable, the comments of davar reduces as far as it can, which is all the way to vocal shva. So it becomes just a muttered vowel, de. The second syllable reduces as far as it can reduce as well, but it can't reduce to a shva because you can't have a shva in a closed syllable. So you get davar with a patach. So davar becomes davar with the vocal schwa in the patach. Bain, when placed in construct, will also shorten as much as possible. So it would become ben. Stere becomes a segel. Yad becomes yad, with the comments turning to patach. So here we see the vowels reducing as far as they can reduce. Am, already reduced as far as it can go. So am is the same whether it is the absolute or the construct. Now we have a slightly different phenomenon when in words that have we can call it a diphthong, or anyway, words that have the aye middle syllable. For example, the one we've seen most often is bayit. This aye can only exist as long as it is in an accented syllable. Bayit. When the accent shifts off of the syllable, then it becomes bait. So bayit becomes bait in construct. We've also seen the word death, mavet, which reduces to mot. So here's the rule. Aye can only occur in Hebrew if the syllable is accented. So in construct, the accent shifts and the word simplifies from bayit to bait. Alright, so that is vowel reduction in construct form. There are also other reasons for vowel reduction in Hebrew. One we want to look at right now is the attachment of endings to words. So davar, the plural of davar, davarim. Im is the masculine plural ending for a noun. So davar becomes davarim. So in order to understand the vowel reduction that's taking place here, we need to pause and talk about the names of syllables. You've seen syllable division before. So devarim, 3-syllable word, devarim. You know that here the accent is on the rim, the final syllable. The accent that takes the syllable is called the tonic syllable. The tone, the accent is on that syllable. The one right before the one with the accent is called the pretonic syllable. So tonic is accented, pretonic, the one before the one that is accented, and then propretonic, the one before that is accented, propretonic, two before the accent. So we need to have these terms in mind: tonic, pretonic, propretonic. The vowels comets and tsere do not like to be propretonic. They do not like to be in the syllable that is before the syllable that is before the accent. They're too far away from the accent, and they don't like to stand there. So, if they find themselves there, they reduce to schwa. So the word davar, everybody's happy. The comment in var is the tonic syllable, and the comment under the dalet is pretonic. So there's no problem here. But when we add the plural ending, then the tonic syllable shifts now to the im. This syllable then becomes pretonic. So reem is our tonic syllable, va is our pretonic syllable, and then da is our propretonic syllable. Now here we find that this comment is sitting in the propretonic position, and it really doesn't like being that far away from the accented syllable, and so this comets here in propretonic position will reduce, and our word becomes devarim. Devarim. So the reason this vowel reduces is because comets in propretonic position will always reduce. The second rule is that the vowel tsere, not only does it not like to be propretonic, it doesn't even like to be pretonic. So if it finds itself in a pretonic position, it will reduce to schwa. So here we have mizbeach. This tsere is happy because it's in the accented syllable, mizbeach. But if we make the plural, mizbachot, ot is our feminine plural ending. So now our tonic syllable is hot, our pretonic syllable is the tzere, and our propretonic syllable is miz. So here we have a tzere in pretonic position. We know that tzere does not like to be propretonic, and it does not like to be pretonic. And so this tzere here is in an uncomfortable position, and it will reduce, so our word becomes mizbachot. Okay, and the final rule is that unlike construct forms, only one vowel will reduce in a word when it adds an ending. So we saw in the construct form that all the vowels in the construct word will reduce as far as they can. This is not the case of words that reduce when an ending is added to them. In this case, only one vowel will reduce. So what you do is you follow rules 1 and 2 in that order. So first you look at the propretonic syllable, that is the syllable before the accent, and you look for a kametz or a tzere. If you have either of those two vowels, you reduce it to a shva. If in the propretonic syllable you don't have either of those, then follow rule number 2, look at the pretonic syllable. If there's a tzere in the pretonic syllable, you reduce that tzere. So for example, here's our word zakein, which means something like an elder. The plural of zakein is hypothetically zakenim. So this im ending is our plural. So if we divide our syllables, nim is now tonic, ke is now pretonic, and za is propretonic. So when we look at this word and we follow our rules, the first thing we'll notice is that there is a kametz in our propretonic syllable. That kametz is unhappy being propretonic, and so it will reduce, according to rule 1, to a vocal shva, so zakenim. Now you'll notice that even in this reduced form, you have a tzere in the pretonic syllable. According to rule 2, tzeres don't like to be in a pretonic syllable. So according to that rule, it could reduce, but it does not, because rule 3 tells us that only one vowel will reduce, and we already reduced the propretonic kametz. So follow rule 1. If you reduce something, you're finished. If you don't reduce anything, then follow rule 2, and then you're finished. Now, Hoffer gives us some other rules of vowel reduction, and those will become important to us in the future, but they are not important for us right now. Okay, that's it for lesson 5, and so do your homework. See you in class.